Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Kemau to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, hey, reliable information, history, talking about culture, hey, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Friday Night Debate on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jah, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Friday Night Debate, we're going to be comparing the first 5 months of President Joseph Newman Boakai to the first 5 months of former President George Manneh Weah. Tonight, I have FOL political analyst, Mr. J. Victor Namwe, who is part of the debate. Welcome, Victor.
Thank you, Mr. Jah. It's good to be here.
Let me also welcome Dr. Clarence Person, is also right here to debate the first 5 months of Boakai versus the first 5 months of Weah. Welcome, Clarence.
Thanks for having me, Dennis. And thanks to our audience out there. And hi to Nangwe Studio there with you.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. If you have not done so already, please share the show, invite someone, and let's debate. We also want to encourage our audience to join in the debate as we compare the first 5 months of President Joseph Newman Boakai versus the first 5 months of President Weah. And we're going to be looking at a few things, right? Because we can't debate everything. So we're going to be looking at the fight against corruption within the first 5 months of Weah. How was the fight against corruption like? Let's look at things like asset declaration, asset recovery, indictments of corrupt officials, audit, and all the different steps that you take to fight corruption. Then we can look at the economy, budget being released. How's the budget, right? Salary payment, they're paying salary on time. The prices of essential goods like rice, like gas, how much people are paying for rent now within the first 5 months of GMB versus the first 5 months of GMW. Also fares. We're going to look at foreign divert investments. Are people, investing in Liberia during the first 5 months compared to President Weah? Capital investments. We'll also look at within the first 5 months alleged scandals and questionable deals. We're going to look at something like that, foreign travels. how transparent and accountable have our presidents been within the first month when it comes to foreign travel? Papa now come, when they travel, what do they bring back? Or we call that a return on the investment. The delegation, are they taking everybody, including the cooks and office boy? We're going to be doing the comparison. Then we can look at communication from the president or from the government as a whole. Security, unexplained death, the drug pandemic, armed robberies. We look at healthcare. Is it healthcare affordable? Is it there's access to healthcare, education? Then we look at the appointments within the first 5 months. How they're doing the government, the formation of the government. Are we appointing the cream of the cream? Is it broad-based representative of the people? How are they working with the branches, separate branches of government when it comes to non-interference? Is it pay to play within the first month? All these things we're going to look at and everything else in between. So, and if you are there also watching the show, you want to be involved in the comparison, please make your comments. We'll have time for you to call in. To date, what has been the first 5 months like? So let's have your introduction. Let me start with J. Victor. When we are comparing the 5 first months, is it necessary? Does it make sense to do? And on the overall, how they compare?
Yeah, I think it makes sense because it gives us kind of a measure of performance between the two, and also it gives us an opportunity to also measure how much progress or the lack of that we're making. So I think a comparison is necessary. Why is it necessary? Because the reports I'm reading, they almost all end with a wake-up call. This is intended to send a message to the current government on where they've done well and where they have not done so well, to give them the opportunity to take corrective measures. So I think comparison and suggestions for correction are always necessary, and I think any good government actually should embrace this because we're actually serving as a sounding board for them to give them feedback on where correction is necessary to be made. So, the current president's performance in the past 5 months, I think it's a mixed bag. And I think net, it might be tilting a little bit towards the negative side because, there are a lot of promises that he made that haven't really come to fruition. And so I think people are holding him to those promises. And I believe maybe if he hadn't made these promises, probably the judgment would have been a little kinder. But I think because he made these promises and people are seeing them as broken promises, the fight against corruption, I think we'll talk about that in detail. The president's seminal, signature agency, the Asset Recovery Commission, I don't believe it is still in existence. So that says a lot about the intention to fight corruption. And then there are, reports of scandals that I think he hasn't really addressed fully. I mean, we've read so much about the pre-inauguration acquisition of vehicles under, I believe, the request of the then advisor to the president, who is now Minister of State from NASCO. 5 vehicles, I think, totaling over $115,000 a piece. Some over $500,000. We don't know if he authorized this, whether he's aware of it. We haven't heard him say anything about it. And so,
conclude that with how does it compare? Because it's comparison. Did we do with that during his first 5 months?
Yeah. I quite frankly, in comparison, I think this president has done better than his predecessor. I mean, around this time, I think we're talking about $16 billion missing, which up to now, I don't really believe we have understood the explanation as to how this happened. That was followed by another 25 million US dollars. So the 16 billion was around 100
Thank you.
million.
We'll get into the detail. Let me go to Dr. Pearson on his opening.
Thanks, Dennis, for having me, and thanks to our friends who've joined us already out there. I want to say welcome to the show. I want to start off by saying it's clear that in comparison, the first 100 days or more, in comparison, when it comes to Boakai and George Manuel Weah, former President George Manuel Weah, Boakai has performed miserably. Dismally, I should say. In fact, I strongly believe the train hasn't even left the station yet. All right. And if the train was trying to pick up or warm the engine hasn't even started yet. They are still trying to find the start button. All right, and they have not even got it right yet. When it comes to George Manuel Weah, first 100 days and over.
Not 100, 5 months. 5 months, more than 100 days.
Yeah, 5 months or so. I would think by this time he had made some substantial gain, and I know we have to have time to go through the entire discussion. So I would like to just say that Boakai is yet to begin, but for George Manuel Weah at this time, he was fast up and running despite the economic scandal that we had at the time.
Thank you. Let me welcome Mr. Aliyu Samba Kamara, a strong Boakai supporter. He used to play around the airfield, the area there, play soccer. Mr. Aliyu, welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me, Dennis.
All right. So in your opening, we are comparing the first 150 days or the first 5 months of President Boakai compared to his predecessor. Your intro.
Well, my intro is just simple, man. It says Joseph Boakai 5 months is by far way better than George Weah first 5 months in 2018 by far.
All right, and now we're gonna take them piece by piece. Let's piece by piece to go into it. Let's start with the fight against corruption in the economy. Let's start with the fight against corruption. Ali, you are already on the floor. The fight against corruption, I'm thinking about asset declaration, asset recovery, indictment of corrupt officials, audits, and all the different things you can do to fight against corruption. How does Boakai compare to Weah in the front?
But you've already answered the question for me. In George Weah's first 5 months, there was no audit done. In fact, he said we were all related. So he had no reason for audit. In a long time, for the first time, the GMB administration is currently auditing the central bank, which is a serious taboo. In the first 5 months, there's serious debate going on in the House of Legislature, something that has not happened for decades. And they're trying to audit. The debate is going on. I mean, there's arguments and counter arguments going on. Those were things that were never something that you would look at. We're talking about economic crimes, port establishment under Boakai first 5 months. Almost all of the agencies in the country, government agencies, are also subject to subsequent audit. You know that lots of the other ministries have also been audited, and so, in fact, ministers, some government officials, we have some leaked document from the LACC. They're being investigated, like the FIA, for example, and so on and so forth. So the fight against corruption is going on. Then, as you see, we have an ombudsman for the issue of transparency, and to enforce the different policies of government in the executive branch. So it's clear, you see visibly, you see these acts are going on, and be aware, Dennis, that the audit is not a day's thing. You have to cross your T's and dot your I's. You have to get in connection with those that are being listed on these audit reports, and subsequent for subsequent prosecution. So the government is on the right path in terms of fighting against corruption.
Clarence, let me hear from you. The fight against corruption. How is Boakai compared to Weah?
Right. Thank you, Dennis. I will begin by saying that when it comes to the fight against corruption, Boakai has a false start. And let me begin with the way you lay out. When it comes to asset declaration, the both of them fail miserably. I think George Manning, we are in over 40 days plus over, I think, going to his 4th month, and he had not made his asset public. We all know that he did declare it because as Aliu just mentioned, it was leaked. So we know that it was published, not published, but declared, but not published. And Boakai did not have any intention to make his asset public until we had to push him. I mean, from the edge, and that totally contravened the mantra on which he ran for president, on which the Liberian people believed in him and his administration. They wanted to have seen a leader who comes to power and show a dramatic change from the past, a break from the past. We did not see that. In fact, what we saw was that going on to the next asset declaration issue, it was politicized. The asset declaration team was set up to the detriment of the country in the fact that we have not been able to retrieve a single dollar because of the politicization of the entire process. We saw Boakai setting up an asset recovery team void of the competent characteristics that I needed to make that process a success. He put political activists on the team. He put partisans on the team who will come and witch hunt. And now the team has crumbled and has to be a reset button is needed. On issues relative to indictment of corrupt officials, we see from Grace, even before Boakai entered power, NASCOP was abused with public funds. We saw the inaugural funds.
Permit me to interrupt you a little bit. How does that compare to Weah?
I'm coming there. I'm coming there. All right.
When you pick up asset declaration, talk about the two of them.
All right. So I'm done with the asset declaration. Like I said, the both of them fail miserably with the asset declaration. You know. Let me say
Boakai declare and publish his assets.
Listen.
We agree that out of pressure, but we are also declared public his asset out of pressure.
The injury has already been done. The injury has already been done. And let me say this. The injury has already been done. The people know that he is not sincere about that process. He only did it because of compulsion. So I'm not going to waste my time on that because I get limited time for others. So when it comes to the indictment, so like I said, you have his inaugural, the total inaugural program went into fiasco. The party chairman being accused of eating a party funds, inaugural funds from the country. We also see the era of his family member at Nukai, Jake Kabakori. All right, and those allegations are out there. I know you're laughing, but if you went and look at current the Centel has a report out there with damaging image of Joseph Boakai and acts of corruption in his first 100 days. Very damaging. He's yet to repair them. When it comes to audit, now this is where I think we're failing on the audit again. You know, we're talking about a systemic problem of corruption in Liberia. This is not a quick fix issue. This is not a political driven situation where you come in and say, oh, I catch the bad guys who just came and corrupted, and then so the problem is fixed. We have multiple others report that are sitting out there at the GSC that no one has touched. They have gathered dust. No one has done anything about those corrupt practices in the past. Joseph Boakai was vice president in the Senate, president of the Senate, I should say, and he did nothing about those corruption reports. Even though he said he was a pack car. I understand he's not a pack car. He just didn't have the leadership to get his way through. When it comes to Joy Weah and audit, I think he failed also miserably. He also failed miserably. He was overwhelmed by allegation of 19 billion. Somebody mentioned here that was handed down from him. Accusation that was handed down from him that a Crow report found to be baseless. and we all know the reports are there. We also had the 25 million scandal, that 25 million map up exercise. Money got missing. We know no money got missing. It was just misapplied and misappropriated. All right. And then it goes on. I think the both of them feel miserably rather when it comes to issue of fighting corruption. But I think the advantage Joseph Boakai has now is that he has 5 more years or 5+ more years in his hands to reset, to hit that reset button. And I think if he hit that reset button, that will be a plus for him.
Clarence, just to conclude, which of them has the edge when it comes to the fight against corruption?
When it comes to the fight against corruption, Joseph Boakai does not have an edge because, like I said, there are people.
Who has the edge? I just want you to be clear.
George Weah had the edge at this time because George Weah was fighting allegations that were inherited. Joseph Boakai has current staff members, current appointees right under his nose that he can do nothing about them. So how do we know that he means serious business when to fight corruption? That's what I'm saying. So he has maybe George Weah on that end will maybe have D plus.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Nabwe on the fight against corruption. How the two compare?
So I look, around this time, as I indicated earlier, right? I mean, one of the biggest scandals in the history of our country was still being talked about. $100 million, right? Followed by another $25 million. By this time, the president's residence on 9th Street was under renovation. I think the vice president's was also renovation. Now, this president also has been accused of attempting to bribe the legislator to the tune of some $300,000. We also know that he has not been forthcoming on his inaugural budget, the inaugural committee report. But he has. There seems to be the intent. There seems to be an attempt to do something. All right. We know that Standard 4 at the Financial Intelligence, when the news broke that some $500,000 or whatever was missing, he was fired. I don't remember President Weah firing anybody for reported graft. I mean, there were stories of people, doing things under his government. I don't remember him taking any accountability. And so this president, in some total, again, when you compare the two, you put them on the scale, the magnitude compared to Weah's, I think the president has an edge. Now, is it acceptable? No, I don't think it is acceptable.
And where is President Boakai's edge?
The edge is one, the magnitude of the corruption, that's one. Two, I think he's making an effort to tackle the problem. I just indicated, at least we know of a dismissal or probably more under his administration that we never heard of during President Weah's time. There are also, at this time, there were attempts not even attempts, there were reported disappearances and deaths of integrity institutional employees. I mean, we know, we read about the auditors whose stories are never even.
I don't think that was in the first 5 months.
Well, yeah, but okay, but basically, my point is, if you take the totality of the performance of President Weah, we can take out the auditors and come to them later on. But if you compare the two side by side within the first 5 months, I would think that Boakai actually has a little edge. If besides the SUV problem with the current Minister of State and the attempt to bribe the legislator, I haven't heard of any major scandal. Now, there are people around him who are reportedly doing, things that I believe he should take action against. He hasn't, but then again, he has done something about it. And I go back to the Financial Intelligence Unit director who was removed. I am sure there are other instances I just don't remember now. So at least there has been some attempt. Now, he also went ahead and set up the Anti-Graft Commission, which is the Asset Recovery Commission. I heard Serena's Force somewhere say he established that, but what did it do? But at least this president erected that. So again, I will give him credit for that. Now, has it done what it was supposed to do? Of course not. But at least we know there's some intention to do something about it, unlike the previous president.
Thank you.
Let me just ask a question quick, man. Nangwe, are you trying to say that their corruption got a degree of good and bad? Is that what you're trying to say? Here?
No, we're doing, so far as we're doing a comparison, and I already said that it isn't acceptable. But if we're doing a comparison, then I would say Boakai has done a better job than we did. That's the point I'm making.
But but what I'm saying is that the better job should be the fight against the intolerance for. There's no intolerance in Boakai for corruption. When I say there's no intolerance, you got a party chairman who is accused of stealing $300,000. You got a nephew, I should say a nephew, who went and squandered money from the car, and then it's been covered up. You got a Grisby who before Boakai even took office, when and took money from NASCO, people savings from NASCO, and you got a 22 million hanky in the air, and then the guy confessed to the legislature that he misapplied the process, and then they had to forgive him. Boakai had not taken any action against these individuals. So what?
And I absolutely agree with you.
He has any heart to fight corruption.
I absolutely agree with you, Dr. Pearson. These are all unacceptable. But again, I'm saying if you match them against President Weah's, then I would say they pay in comparison.
So how many of Weah's officials in the first 100 days were accused of corruption?
Samuel Tua comes to mind, and Samuel Tua remained Minister of Finance to the end.
But Boakai, we can come more than 5.
Clarence, so you tell me now, how did Weah fight corruption compared that gives him the edge over Boakai?
No, this is what I'm thinking, right? First of all, under the Weah administration, in this early stage, corruption scandal was not as rampant among his ministers as it is right now, as it is amongst Joseph.
What step did he take?
At the time, they were only fighting scandal. They were fighting scandal from outside, and we did see the Crow report. The government of President Weah at the time, and don't forget, I said he also failed miserably as well. But you saw he took a step by bringing Crow to come in and investigate the 25 million mop-up exercise, right? There was the 16 billion, I think the other 16 or 19 billion stuff, and then nothing was wrong. The report are still there.
Aliyu,
yes, sir.
Your take. According to Clarence, President Weah fought corruption more than Boakai. What's your
in the first?
You see, Clarence, calm down. The Boakai business really eating, sir. Calm down. You know, Dennis. I know the Pearson family. One of them was superintendent of Banga when I was in Bon County.
Please don't go to family.
No, it's not an attack. It's actually I'm actually embracing.
It's okay.
I'm actually embracing them. I had a lot of classmates like Raul Pearson and other guys in this mission. And this other Pearson is kind of a little bit different because those other guys were a little bit more conservative. And
that's why I say, don't go to the family thing. Let's go to the issue.
The Pearsons are my brothers. We grew up together. But let me tell you this, Dennis. 25 million in the first 5 months. A finance minister, a guy who was trained at Washington University, according to him, put $25 million in a bag and walk around brochure from Monticello to Monticello and say it's a mark-up exercise, 25 million. Compare just that one scandal. We're not talking about the bill trial issue at the port. Compare just that one scandal with everything that has happened in the Boakai administration in 5 months. And for a president who will have a finance minister who will take money by bag and go in the street to do map-up exercise, and didn't do anything about it. And you compare him with Boakai and you say, oh, his minister of state for presidential affairs did something before Boakai came to the government. You have to understand something. At NASCAR, there are laws on the book, there are rules on the book. If I am the director general of NASCAR and you come to me to give you $100,000 plus, the first thing I will tell you, our policy does not allow that. If you join me and I give you that money, I'm also held liable, and I'm not excusing the Minister of State. It was a hard movement. It was a lot of anxiety going on. She should not have done that, but we're talking $100,000+ to $25 million. All right, we can say so many things. You will say, okay, they kept me doing the inauguration. The inauguration money that the people have issue with was the one that came from the United Party. Is this something to prompt into? Yes. But you keep most of the things that you bring in to compare to George Weah's saga or scenario, it's just like oranges and apples. You
Thank
can't
you.
put them in the same wagon.
Thank you.
So
Let's stay on that and go to the economy, right? By this time, hold on. We got a lot to cover.
Give me 30 seconds to say something.
Hold on. We got a lot to cover. You can wrap that up in your. But let's look at the economy. By this time, let's look at salary payments. Let's look at the first budget. Because most of the time our people hide the corruption in the budget. So let's look at the budget within the first 5 months. Let's look at the prices of essential goods. And I'm not saying definitely prices are supposed to go up, inflation, right? But to what extent are people able to afford at this time? Are they getting paid? Can they afford rent? Or are companies coming to Liberia to invest within the first 5? Or are they at least signing stuff to say, yeah, we have good sign? What has been the capital investment earmarked within the first 5?
Well, what the government has done in the first
I
5
want
months.
Number to start this one. You started the first one. Let Victor start this one.
So on the economy, it looks to me like Weah and Boakai are pegging each other more like closely. They both have not been able to address the rising prices in the cost of rice, cost of gasoline. Weah had his share. I think Boakai is still trying to figure it out. We know how he and Moderator have been going back and forth. That question has not been addressed yet. President Weah suffered the same thing. We remember the famous interview at the airport when he came back and they said, you're not right in the country, only to find out there really wasn't much in the country. Let's not forget, at the time Weah was in office, the inflation rate of the dollar to Liberian dollar was not this high. I think it was around 180 something. Right now it is 192, I believe, on a Boakai's term, but it hasn't really significantly gone up. I think it was around there when Boakai came in, and it still remained there. So, but they haven't addressed that, and because the cost of living is not the same as it was, say, 6 years ago. So I think a lot of people are feeling the pinch maybe more than they did under the Weah government. But as a genuine effort to address the pocketbook issues, the both of them has not done much. Gasoline remains high, unaffordable. A lot of people cannot afford to pay transportation to go from one point to the other. That same thing happened under Weah. And so on that level, I think they remain the two of them remain at even keel. Now, as to salaries, I'm not sure exactly what is still the salaries now, how much they're current. I don't know exactly what the situation is. I don't have much information on it. As to about capital investment, I think they both are struggling. I know around this time we had the famous, Eto and Igbo Mouth, fracas that came into the country, almost $500 million or so, whatever that was. We also have the 285,000 pieces of equipment. Same thing. No genuine due diligence done, and then of course we have fed this information that eventually turns out to be porous at best. So I think they're both struggling. This president, the only disappointment I have is that I expect him to do better with this situation, with these problems, because we think he was better equipped experientially, academically, but unfortunately, this is not what we are seeing. But hopefully they'll get their arms around it.
Lawrence, so you don't give anybody the edge, or
No, I don't. I really don't.
Okay.
On this again, I would say I'll give the edge to George Manuel Weah, right? And I tell you why. When you look at the economy of Liberia, as was inherited by George Manuel Weah, and the economy of Liberia as is inherited as we speak by Joseph Boakai, there is a big difference on the foundation. at the time, George Weah was taking over power. We all understand that our economy was primarily donor driven, and I was there at the time. I worked in government myself, and the point here is that you have on mill leaving, you have major NGOs winding down, you have serious reduction in cash inflow when it comes to hard currency in the country. So we could see the reason why the exit of Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and the incoming of the George Manneh Weah would have had that economic struggle. We don't have that right now. At the time Joseph Boakai taking over the country, even though they got the propaganda that is saying that the country is in a mess, Liberia was generating a high income or revenue when it comes to the budget envelope. With local revenue generated right in the country running a national budget close to $700 million. $700 million. So what are we trying to say here? So you got to look at the situation in the context of what the economy that each of these individuals inherited. All right,
talking about inherited
let's go down the salary.
I just want to talk before you move on there. Talking about the inherited economy, according to Prince Johnson, which has been corroborated by President Sirleaf, President Weah was left with $150 million. He claimed he left $40 million to President Boakai, which ended up being disputed. Eventually, I think we settled on the net. When you take out, encumbrances, I think the net was around $7 or so million.
Thanks for the interjection. Let me make this clear again. Liberia runs a cash-based economy. All right, a cash-based budget. That what I meant to say. If you were to bring Amara Kone on this show right now, he'd tell you the thing. At the time he was finance minister, they run cash-based budget, meaning they spend what they project to generate. So I can understand going to the end of the year, our revenue will be low compared to what we have to spend. So it's understandable. But what I'm driving at there is that we're indeed generating
cash-based mean?
No, cash-based means
I'm not an economist, so
Dennis,
don't forget I accountant too.
Dennis, cash-based means precisely that you project this revenue going to be generated, and then you decide your expenses for your expenditure part of your budget. That's how Liberia has been run the past couple of years. It's clear. Ask any economist, they will tell you that. But what I'm saying here is that at the time Ellen was leaving, the level of support that we received at the time was not the same that we're receiving now under George Manneh Weah. And the strength for our local economy is not as it was when George Manneh Weah inherited. And that is proven by how much we have for our budget under George Manneh Weah. Now let's go to salary. Salary delay under both administrations, I can attest to that. So both of them struggling. Prices of a basic commodity, both of them struggling. But again, go back into the economic basis on which the guys took over power. All right, foreign direct investment, the both of them struggling as well. And then when it comes to capital investment, both of them struggling as well. So I see no big difference between the two. But just I would say that looking at what George Manneh Weah inherited as compared to the current economy we have, George Manneh Weah did well in the first 100 days.
All right, and cash-based means cash-based and the accrual-based. Cash-based is you recognize only when you receive money. So there are no account receivables in cash-based, right? So when it's the accrual, that means if you sell something, even if you don't get a cash, you recognize it. Tom, I lie?
Someone not even connected yet.
Thomas can verify that. Trust me. We're able to generate.
Yeah, so that's because I counted at two, right? Cash-based and the accrual-based.
So Dennis, I'd like to acknowledge the correction from my young brother Alvin Morris. I trust his analysis so much. He's telling me that the reserve, what the $150 million was reserved. I guess.
Yeah, yes, it was reserved. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know. So.
All right, Aliu, on the economy, and let me welcome Mr. Thomas Kane. That's FOL Public. This man, he the government. Like
Dennis, first of all, at no time in the last 6 years under George Weah did he manage to generate anything close to $700 million. All of his projection went to budget. What you call it? They didn't make that money.
I think President we have last budget was over 700 million.
That's what he announced.
That
But
is
they
not-
had shuffle. They had shuffle.
that is not-
ABS in waste more. They had a budget shuffle. They didn't get it. It was a projection. Every time they announced it. Now, when you try to compare George Weah in 5 months, George Weah's first 5 months were marked with some very serious demonstration in the first place. The very first 5 months. We have problem at the port. There were the Liberian Shippers Union demonstrating because things drastically changed. But let's just look at something. Let's look at some stats, for example. I'm not going to give you any numbers because they're not right on top of my head. When George Weah took over, he took over from a steady upward trend economy. That's what George Weah took from. He took over from a government that had already put all the different institutions in place, including the then FIU and now FIA, and all of the different statutory agencies that you see functioning today, the LACC and whatnot. So all George Weah had to do was to build upon it. Instead, we saw not only a dilapidation of the economy, but we saw the economy completely dredged downward. We saw everything go all the way downward. We have very low and very poor international recognition and respect. We saw a scenario where he had to even go to Israel, pretended to be Christian, bought him rock and everything just to get financial support. And all of this. So Joseph Boakai has come at a time where he has to build what has been broken. And that is why putting them two together in comparison just wouldn't add up, because Joseph Boakai, again, it's like putting me in a running race with Yusu Ndo from Jamaica. You know he's gonna beat me.
Yusu
That's what we're doing right now. You got one guy.
Yusu Ndo is artist, is musician. You talk about Yusu Ndo.
Yusu Ndo, I mean, that's what I mean. You know. So yeah, Yusu Ndo, that's a Senegalese. But
you just joking with us, right?
Yeah, wait now. I'm saying if you put me and Yusu Ndo in a race to run, of course you expect him to win. Putting George Weah and Joseph Boakai in this kind of a situation. Look, Dennis, let me tell you something. And you realize what I'm telling you. After the first 1 year, everything that Joe Boakai is doing now will begin to reflect them. Because there's a lot of damage control that is going on. As a matter of fact, inflation. Every year here in America, when I moved here, my rent was $1,400. I've been here over 5 years, and my rent is $1,800 in the United States. It's a global thing when it comes to this inflation. You know that better than me. So Joseph Boakai is all the way ahead of George Weah, even with the economy in the first 5 months.
Thank you, but give us the numbers. Let me go to Tom on the economy. Weah versus Boakai in the first 5 months.
Before I go to the economy, let me go back to the corruption piece. There are certain things that have been said that are not factual. It is not factual to say that the report that was done by Crow said nothing happened. The first thing we have to acknowledge is that that report that is in the public is a redacted report. That means certain portion of that report was never released to the public. So every time we speak about that report, we have to put that footnote that the version we are talking about is the redacted version. If you go back and read that report, the claim was that $16 billion in that magnitude got missing. The report said no. But there were specific weaknesses in the central bank that were identified on the issue of cash management, on the issue of their processes and procedures that were in place. Those weaknesses are documented in the report. And therefore, no one should categorically say, oh, the people came in, they investigated, and nothing was found. There was no problem found. That is not true. One second.
Missing, correct?
One second. The problem with the Weah government when it took over is that it did not manage that transition process of taking over a government. The money was printed, it was coming in. And even up to now, a couple of weeks ago, money came in because the central bank was giving the authority to print up to 60 billion Liberian dollars. The money is still coming. This current government has received money, but we have not heard this news of money getting missing. So my point is that the Weah administration, when they came into power, they did not manage the process of taking over the work that they needed to do. Also, on the issue of corruption, when Weah took over, at this point in time, every cry in that country was the houses that Weah was building for himself. So our attention was not even on working as a country to build the country, to develop the country. Everyone was screaming about where Weah was getting money from to build the condominiums that he built. I think Mr. Nangwe spoke about this. We had issue with Nathaniel McGill. This whole issue of 200,000 houses, he said he took it from LBDI. It was a loan. It took time to clarify that. Then the $25 million on the issue, I think somebody spoke about the mop up. So if you compare the two, magnitude to magnitude, you will never compare those things that were happening under Weah at this point in time to the issues that have been highlighted under Joseph Numa Boakai. So on the issue of corruption, Weah did not set up his asset recovery team in the first 4-5 months. It did not happen. President Boakai did it. Even if it has hit a war, is going to come back. This has to be commended. So corruption, the two of them, let's not even compare them. George Weah did worse than Joseph Boakai. On the economy, the issue with the economy in 2017, 2018 was that Liberia was still recovering from the shock of Ebola in 2014. When we were projected to grow from around 5.6 or 5.3%, we came back to zero in 2014. So when we had took over, we were still having that issue of recovering from Ebola. And then we had the global commodity prices, iron ore and rubber, their prices fell. So that was the context. Anyone that was taking over then needed to focus on better managing the economy than just going into office and start to celebrate.
And throw in COVID.
The issue with COVID is that COVID did not harm us as compared to the way Ebola ravaged us. In fact, under COVID, because it did not affect Africa a lot and it did not affect Liberia a lot, in 2021, Liberia collected more domestic revenue than compared to previous years. You remember Weah and his team celebrating that domestic revenue is going up. So COVID did not really affect us much. So let's agree that this economy is slightly better than in 2017, 2018. But my point I'm making is that we as economic management team did not do a good work of actually transitioning that issue of the economy onto a new government. So there were a lot of lapses. And then we had inflation that went up. The response was mop up, and mop up itself ran into a crisis. So on the economy, I would say we are far more better today. This thing, they are not moving as fast as we expect them to do, but they have a better grasp of things as compared to what Samuel Tuer did.
Thomas, if I can just interject just a second. Look, Thomas, be honest with yourself. You cannot say that George Weah inherited is a depressed economy and still say that under Joseph Boakai he inherited a better economy and so you want to attribute it to him doing better. It does not work like that. If George Weah handled a depressed economy, did the economy revive over the short period of time that he handled? Did it revive? Yes, it revived. We saw inflation took a turn for the better. We also saw that our economy that was in a slump took a turn for the better. We saw, you yourself said it just now, you saw revenue generation go up. So if they were not managing it properly, then how did they improve for the better? That's
the thing you are not getting is that the argument is within the context of a time frame. This argument is in the context of a time frame. One second. We are discussing the first 5 months. How did we manage the process of the inflation? The way they thought to manage the inflation was to withdraw money from our reserve, which was 25 million, and be able to do open market operation, infuse US dollar into the economy to be able to reduce.
That's basic.
Right? One second. But Even
then you know that recovery takes time. So you now infuse it today and it happening. So if they took the action in the first 100 days, it yield results that will also from today.
we're not going to the long-term recovery. We are saying how the two governments have performed in their first five months. What I'm saying to you is that we have to respond to the high inflation by withdrawing money from our reserve did not work well because the $25 million, much of it happened to have been squandered. And you even said earlier that the $25 million was audited by the investigation was not done by Crow. It was done by a presidential investigation team, which was headed by the FIU boss and a team of other professionals from Liberia. So that $25 million was different.
Also,
the GAC audited it later after the PRT did their investigation. This is what
GAC.
Okay, let's move on then.
The GAC identified a lot of weaknesses. They said some of the institutions that they gave the money to did not even exist. They couldn't find them. So what I'm saying to you is that if you are taking over an economy that is not performing well, you come in as a crisis manager, you do your best to be able to resolve the problem. Don't add insult to injury. If we look at the performance of George Weah economic management team, they did a very poor job at managing the economy in the very first 5 months.
So
what I'm saying to you.
What has Joe Boakai done to investigate the current corrupt government officials? As you saw, you just mentioned that George Weah.
This is what I'm saying to you. Let's go back to the context. You keep jumping from one point to the other.
No, I just want to see the steps that were taken. That's all. What is Joseph Boakai doing for his corrupt officials? As you see, steps were taken for the 16 billion, steps were taken for the 25 million. What is Joseph Boakai doing concerning Grisby? What is he doing concerning Kabakori? What is he doing concerning his party chairman? What is he doing concerning other people that like the public work minister, Giddings? What is he doing about them?
Okay, this is something also you don't get. You just speaking on things that you don't have details on, right? No, one second. The issue with the $25 million. There's a technical issue there that has a problem. And this is why even the Senate is calling the public work minister back. And I will explain to you. The $22 million was earmarked to be able to refurbish these roads that we did not do for 6 years, right? But till now, the Ministry of Public Works has said that only $8 million has been committed. I will place this issue of the $22 million more as a fault on the Ministry of Finance because the budget was with the legislature. The executive had already requested 112, which was the $44 million. Part of the $44 million they used was a request from the 112. The PFM law says that when the budget is with the legislature and it's not passed, you can use 112 of the previous year budget. So they requested $44 million in January. So when the minister was making this request, his thought was that we already have money in the budget for the public work beyond this amount, so I can request it. But that was outside the $44 million that they had already requested. In the $44 million, they had $2 million there. So the Ministry of Finance went ahead and gave him a letter saying to him that what we have for you in the budget is above this amount, so you can actually go ahead with these issues. On the PPCC side, he clarified that they did not violate anything on the PPCC side. The point is that the Senate is saying that it's a component of that $22 million that you committed at the point where the budget had not passed. And his point is that the Ministry of Finance had already told me that there was a provision in the budget for this amount. This is how I move ahead. So when we discuss these things, people just say $22 million squandered, $22 million squandered, without actually stating what are the
regulations,
these processes. So this is why I just want to clarify this issue.
Thank you. And you already touched on that because I wanted us to also talk about, I think you will discuss it now, is the alleged scandals and questionable deals during the first 5 months, right? Do we have alleged scandals and questionable or shady deals during the first 5 months in Weah government compared to Boakai or vice versa? Alio?
Yeah, you can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep saying, like you corrected me, it's the Yusumbo and Aliu Kamara company. It's just me and just about that thing. Look, there was so much scandal. whether or not some were true or not under George Weah, we had a $16 billion Liberian situation. Okay, under George Weah. In fact, he was walking to the executive mansion on the first day when that scandal took place. Then we had a 25 million map-up exercise issue in the first 5 months. And then we had Nathaniel Mange corruption King Kong issue in the first 5 months. We had Bill Trawe issue with hacking and CTN, all kinds of stuff they were coming up with at the National Port Authority. We can go on and on and on from agency to ministry. What we are having here, and those were actual tangibles, okay? But what we are having here right now is just innuendos, speculations, and they're all mostly coming from those who are either losers in the election or those who are just anti-JMB. But the reality is, Dennis, if you listen, like for example, the public works ministry issue, it's not a scandal. You cannot call that a scandal. They haven't administrative issues there. It's not a scandal. It's not like somebody's being accused of stealing money. No. Okay? They have a process argument. When you talk about what happened with this man from the Minister of State, we're talking $100,000+. I'm not a rich guy, I ain't got that kind of money, but I can have $400,000+. And even though it was done wrongfully, but that was even done before inauguration. And different parties are also responsible for that. That doesn't make it right. When you look at most of the things that they are talking about, bulk of it is in the legislature. As far as the executive branch of government is concerned, they're nothing actually tangible except for suspicion. So comparing the two again, it just don't hold, Dennis.
Victor. Victor, unmute yourself if you can.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, we've already mentioned some of the scandals.
Right.
We mentioned the Bengal scandal. We also talked about the president's rush, to build these massive units, 47, I believe, or so. We mentioned the vice president's effort to renovate where she lived, and then of course the Igbo mouth and the Elton Long scandal. Those were big scandals. I mean, they took up so much space around this time. Then the president's own, borrowed presidential plane. We all know there is no free lunch. But the president had an aircraft assigned to him by one of his friends. In return for what? We may never know. And so the scandals, I can go on, but if we come to this government, yes, there have been scandals, and I keep saying in magnitude, relative. Yes, there is the Sylvester Grisby scandal of the 5 SUVs, which the president has not been able to address. About $500 million worth of vehicles for one day for inauguration. And where are those vehicles anyway? Did they send them to GS?
100,000+, not $500,000.
Times 5.
Yeah, times 5.
No, it's 100,000+ total dollars.
Each of those.
Okay.
So, where are those vehicles? We don't know. The president will attempt to remove the speaker in the early days of this government. I mean, where is that investigation? Then there's, Yeke Kuluba was clear. He displayed his $4,500 check, and that was cut out for him to go to the furniture store and get his furniture in an attempt, to rally the legislature to remove the speaker, which is still ongoing as we speak. There are reports that efforts are still underway to remove the speaker. For whatever reason, we may never understand. So there are scandals on both governments at this time of their performance in office. But again, relative to George Weah, I think Boakai is a little bit he has a leg up on Weah in terms of the magnitude. Now, Dr. Pearson may ask me, is there small or bigger corruption? No. I think both are wrong in many ways, but again, we're talking relativity. That's what we're doing here. We're comparing the two. In that way, then I think one person is better than the other, and that person, in my opinion, will be this current president. I think he's done a much better job than President Weah did.
Mr. Kane, at this time, I think the bank governor, right? Both President Weah had this thing with his friend giving him jet to boost his morale.
Yeah.
President Boakai also went to Guinea-Bissau on a jet, right?
You can't compare that.
Right. and President Weah had the Charles Salif in handcuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm saying, this is what I said earlier that it's not factual to say, okay, nothing happened. The issue with Charles Lee and everyone was because of some of the findings that came from the Crow report about the weaknesses that were identified in the central bank on the issue with the way they manage cash, with the way they handle even the currency that came in. It was just that the president did not see that through. I mean, it was, I think, Mr. Salif, may his soul rest in peace, with the controller of the central bank, and that happened for a couple of weeks, and it fell through the cracks. So there were definitely issues there. I know for sure development partners were to even build the capacity of the central bank. So these things were there. My issue is that, I mean, I already mentioned the issue of the magnitude, like Mr. Onambe was saying. My point is that for a country to grow, you need to be able to focus on the growth process. And this is why this issue of corruption and poor governance, we need to get rid of it or minimize it so that we can focus on the real hard work to grow the economy and develop that country. President Weah diverted everyone's attention from actually working on development towards where he got his money from to build those structures, while he was building while he was breaking down all of his homes. So that attention that took away from us affected the country's growth process. And also in corruption, there is something called petty corruption and there's something called grand corruption. All corruption is the same, but you don't compare the two. Grand corruption is often more detrimental as compared to petty. So what I'm saying is that if we put all of these different scenarios together, Mr. Nambu already said the issue of the current Minister of State, I think 107,000. The Unity Party chairman, the money was, the concern about that money issue was what was the source. And even with the gift that the president gave when the incident happened in Totota. But if we combine all of those, they don't come close to the portion of the $25 million that was lavished. They don't come close to the questionable amount of where the president got money from to build those houses. Right? So the scandals, I mean, they are coming up. They are to different one or two ministries. I think the president needs to pay attention to it to be able to address it at this early point in time so that we don't fall back into that situation where people feel that they can do things wrong and go away with it.
Dr. Pearson, by this time, Nathaniel McGill said he got a loan to build $300,000 loan. After 5 months, then we try to get a clearer picture when he said, well, and I'm paraphrasing, when I steal the money I built here, did I get it to Ghana? So when we talk about shady deals and these scandals, by this time, the condominium, breaking down 12th Street house, McGill's so-called loan, and all that were happening. Talk about the magnitude compared to what is happening in the Boakai's government.
Thank you, Dennis. Again, I would like to start off by saying there is no way we can glorify any act of corruption. No, we can glorify any act of corruption. And I'd like to make that clear because just not because of the debate, but because people are viewing, right? That we can glorify no act of corruption. However, when you look at this time, how the opposition have politicized politics in Liberia and governance in Liberia, we can understand why we have some of the issues we have. People talking about 16 billion. It was an inherited action from the Boakai administration. It is not something that George Weah came in and went and printed 16 billion. Aliu just mentioned here, George Weah was entering office and the 16 billion issue were being raised. So it's not like he went and printed money. Thomas here can clarify that as well. when it comes to 25 million map of exercise, there were missteps. I agree. But what am I saying here, Dennis? What am I saying here? This scandal that we are seeing on President Joe Boakai, that also involved himself giving money to people who have fire disaster and couldn't even tell us where he took the money from up to the day he yet to clarify where he took that money from.
That was not within the first 5 months. He had not taken office.
No, listen, the man was president at the time he was declared the winner of the elections of the Republic of Liberia.
The 5 months we are talking about start from January 22.
Okay, get him a pass on that. Get it over me a pass on that. No problem. Since 9 years, I'll wait for when you can get it. But the point I'm making here is that, listen, the scandal that we have under Joseph Boakai are more severe, not because of the volume of the money, but because of the inactions. The inaction. That's what I'm looking at. Joseph Boakai comes on the mantra of no business as usual. Joseph Boakai comes on the mantra of transparency and accountability. How can he sit there and people are being accused of mismanaging funds, and he even came and validated the mismanagement of the inaugural funds by saying that he has complicit, he was okay with what went on during the inaugural ceremony. How can he say that when an order was launched by the I think is the Thomas which IAA. All right, launch an audit in there, and we have not even gotten the report and he gave them a pass. Who does that? How can he come on the mantra of credibility and transparency and accountability?
But then
it doesn't match. It doesn't match.
Hold on, sir.
So
yeah, they got, man.
Let me conclude by saying this, right? Dennis. Listen, the issue about Joy Weah building house is mere allegation. There's no facts whatsoever that anybody has proven that he spent money to build the property. Until the facts can come up, we don't have it. There's no.
Say that again. You said
the buildings that we have that the politicized, opposition concerning his building properties in Liberia. There is no facts to prove that the money used to build those properties were stolen.
No, but there are facts that those property exist.
They exist, but there's no fact that the money stolen money was used. Joe Boakai said other things, like others who can find out. That go to another thing. Joe Weah started driving private plane before he even became president of the Republic of Liberia. Joe Weah was flying private planes even before he won elections in Liberia. Joe Weah flew private plane and brought to post in Liberia as well. So I'm not saying that he didn't use state money to fly private jet. He did when he became president. I agree, but I'm saying he also have already flew private jet before he even flies one now, even that he's not president. He even flies one now that he's not even president. So what I'm saying is that he knows how he does it. I'm not saying he's good until we can prove it that he stole public money to feed those habits. That means then it's clear. But let's come to Joseph Boakai, who condemns it and comes and do the same thing. How can you say he's better than his predecessor when he condemns it and come and carry on the same act? Business as usual. So in my judgment, if I condemn something and say it was worse, I should come and provide something better. And he has not provided something better. That's my argument. So he flunked. He flunked. Alio can come across that. He flunked.
Thank you. We got to go a little bit faster. We have more grounds to cover here.
Dennis, before we hop on, let me just throw in real quickly. Around this time, the personnel, I mean, this is also a kind of corruption. Young Jefferson Koji was occupying the space. We all remember the famous speech about, you can't come in and intimidate or in this space and all of that. We don't have any of that running around in this Boakai government so far. I think that's something too that is worth mentioning.
And the other one to mention, it has happened during the same period, but in terms of magnitude, it's the issue of bringing people onto the government payroll, employing people in the public sector. I think this current government is very conservative around this. The CSA is doing head count from every ministry to the other, really chasing down HRs and chasing down controllers to get people from the payroll. In the first 5 months of the Weah regime, the most popular thing that was in Liberia was the party chairman list. Everyone was moving from one agency, just sending a long list of people to this ministry and say, employ these people, put them in these positions, and pay them these salaries. So you have situations in the civil service where you have one position and two persons in the same position. One person from the CDC side, one person from the people that they met there. So I think that was also a point of really violating our laws, which can be counted as corruption.
So what's about all the accusation about people hiring their family members and people party chairman carrying lists and
Accusation.
the GSC payroll audit has not happened yet. People are being laid off. Other people are being carried to government positions.
Like I said, my basis of argument is based on facts and really comparing the two. The party chairman we do know sent, I think, 3 or 4 names to the Central Bank of Liberia. There was public outcry on that, and he even posted on his Facebook page what is wrong with the party chairman finding job for his people, and a lot of Liberians condemn him for that. What I'm saying to you is that in terms of magnitude, the number of people that the party chairman then circulated to the different ministries and agencies for employment, the Unity Party, the current government has gotten nowhere close to that point that we saw under George Weah.
And that led to John Molu's the liquor talk, how the president was exchanging favors for jobs and all that. We all remember that as well. I'm serious. And again, Dr. Pearson, trust me, and we all say it here, but I think we have to give the little credit where it belongs. I think in terms of comparison, the both magnitudes on the both.
So we can compare Modu liquor talk with what happened to the UP party headquarters in a few days.
No. I am saying this also happened under President Weah, as the
many times.
As Mr. Khan is explaining, as happened with the party chairman at the National Bank. I'm saying John Molu, they had their own, a share of trying to influence employment into government. And
I listed a number of things here. Maybe we can breeze through them quickly. So we talk about for this one, we talk about the fight against corruption, the economy, alleged scandal, foreign travels and communication. So in foreign travel, are we having more accountability and transparency comparatively? And are we having return on the investment if that's supposed to be an investment? And then also let's touch on communication from the president's office or from the government to the Liberian people. Okay, President Weah had a way of doing using alternative media through sermons and songs. We have president's interviews, press conferences from MICAT and also from press secretary. Let's do the comparison. Let me start with Victor.
The foreign travels, I think this president kind of fumbled on his first, couple of foreign travels. I think they're improving in terms of communicating. First of all, the size of the delegation. Yes, of course, we all had the stories of the 12 persons and then 26 or whatever on his last trip, I think to the States or something like that. But we remember, President, we are going to China and over 300 people with him to China. And what was brought back from that trip, I still can tell you what was. What has been brought back by this president, I don't know yet. Like I said here previously on this network, I'm hoping that some of these visits, the results will come to fruition soon. I think their problem is the lack of communication, effective communication in what they're doing. I think that is killing them. The recent trip, for instance, that this president made to South Korea, there were about 3 different versions of what they did there. I believe the press secretary said they had signed 7 MOUs, and the minister of information has said 6, or the other way around. And then the president came out and said, we did nothing. We just went in there and kind of made our pitch, but we didn't conclude anything. So I think again, I hate to say again in magnitude and all of this, but I think this president again is taking less and less delegation than President Weah did, and I just mentioned one of them. It is a fact. Well, at least he also has the press secretary who makes an attempt to tell us in some form or shape or form what it is that they're going to do there, even though we don't ever get what it is that they did after the trip.
Let's talk about the return, the ROI.
The return on investment, like I said again, I'm hoping as of now I cannot quantize, quantify what is it that they brought back, but I'm
But can you quantify what we have brought back?
absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. I can't because I don't know what the president brought back. This president too, I can't quantify either because they haven't communicated to us. I'm saying we're hoping that in due course, whatever they negotiated will come to pass. I don't know.
Yeah, and I hate to talk about what they bring back, but I just
Yeah,
have to throw
probably
it
not in those words, but return on investment if we should say.
there. Dr. Pearson, let's talk foreign travels here and then communication. Is the
If I may
president?
quickly, Dennis, I am also confused by this president's lack of appreciation for the region and the continent. I think there's a lot of good that they could gain from going to the ECOWAS region as well as OAU. Some of these places that they're going, they may not get as much from there as they could have gotten from the continent. We know Nigeria gave us a lot oil and other stuff, so I'm just saying.
Yeah. Thank you, Dennis. Look,
I mean, during President Sirleaf now, not this time. I'm sorry, Dr. Pearson, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Look, thank you for the question, Dennis. Let be clear here. When it comes to foreign travels, Boakai did miss a lot of opportunities initially, and I was one of those who were very vocal about that. He made a lot of trips, secret trips, that had no meaning compared to the meaningful ones that he went on. All right. We know that he skipped the ECOWAS, the initial ECOWAS summit. We know that he skipped the one that AU had. We know that those would have been initial opportunities for him to meet his colleague and then hit the ground running. He did not take advantage of those. But we also know that when George Weah, in comparison, in the first few days in office, did visit France. He did visit Ivory Coast. He did visit Ghana. He did visit Nigeria, where the famous 6,000 teachers business all came from. Ivory Coast increased power to us through the power sharing deal they have with us at that time. We also know that Macron gave us, I think, some commitment. I think out of 5, I may be wrong, but I think about 5 million euros. All right, on President we have first trip to that visit. So there was
what president we have said, but I don't know whether we actually got anything.
No, EU, the European Union did provide that. All right, it came in other commitments. But what I'm saying here is that at least we saw something in return. Ghana did send us few medical staff that visited our bureau for a while, but did not continue their service to the medical side of the thing. So George Weah did get some returns in his first initial visits that he made in the first 100 days. That is for sure. When it comes to communication, I think I know I used to see Toby Smith Toby trying to do the press secretary. I think we've improved on Weah from what my sister Kula Fofana is doing. I think she brings a new vigor and a new dynamics to the process, and that I can commend her for. All right, compared to the Weah administration. When it comes to Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is struggling like we saw the Ministry of Foreign Affairs struggle under George Weah. There's no clear-cut communication strategy for both George Weah mining time and the time of Joseph Boakai. I hope they can fix that. So on the overall, I would give Joseph Boakai a plus on his time for communication. So far, even though he's a Bobo leader as well. All right, as just with Joe Weah. Only different with Joe Weah that he made music. Joe Boakai is not making any music right now. But other than that, and when it comes to the means of communication that you mentioned, Dennis, there are many more of communication. If a president communicates well through singing to the people that we saw during the time of the COVID and work for Liberian people, I mean, it's okay with me. All right, that communication was in who have been one of the things that saved somebody's life. All right, but I think Joe Boakai can do more when it comes to communication now that he's beginning to gain more confidence.
Aliyu.
I can sit back and hold it. They enjoy my brother PSC, man. You know.
At least I gave you plus some for communication.
There is the Ministry of Information. The government communicate through the Ministry of Information. All of my major agencies and ministries through the Ministry of Information. If you watch every Thursday, pretty much, there's a program there where ministers and other autonomous agencies come there to tell you what what they've achieved, or what they're looking forward to getting done.
Tuesday and Thursday.
Huh?
Tuesday and Thursdays.
Yeah, you see. So the presidential press secretary comes out on Friday to tell you what's going on in the executive mansion. Last Friday we were on the show here, Dennis. You read a little headline that captured exactly what the president did in South Korea. So this government is communicating. And, now a lot of us are busy in the U.S. We don't really get these informations unless they come on Focus on Liberia. And by the way, then you hired somebody recently that does your reporting. I think I like that guy. I think you did a great job hiring that guy. But so the government is actually communicating. If you look at people say, "Oh, the government, the president went on blah 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 trip," and man, we can't just be talking about that. The president's first trip was in Ghana. It was an unofficial trip. So it was a one-day family visit to Ghana. All right. The president, you say the president cannot do West Africa, you're not doing West Africa. Blah, 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 blah. The president went to his first official visit was to the Ivory Coast. And the yield result, the current output in the southeast around the borders with La Cote d'Ivoire, and the northern part of the country, north and central around the border with La Cote d'Ivoire as well. He paid off $13 million to get that project back and ongoing. The president visited the guy from Equatorial Guinea. So the president is visiting places that are necessary at this time. And somebody said, "Oh, the president, they carry a lot of people to." Look, Dennis, if you go on the executive mansion website, and that's where you should take your information from as per the president's travel. The president put his exact delegates on there. When he put 9 there, the detractors will go and do their own tabulation and put 26. However, when you go to the executive website, it was at 9. So that's what we should go by, Dennis. So in comparison, we could barely get the press secretary. I remember one time, Dennis, you managed to hustle him on here, the George Weah press secretary. You know, it wasn't easy to get that guy to say anything.
That was the assistant press secretary, Sam Smith-Toby. He made
Smith-Toby. In fact, he was the only one accessible. The chief press secretary. I don't ever remember that guy saying anything. You know, and those were the only two.
Aliu, we are spoke to the nation on Sunday through a sermon.
yeah, he put some kind of video up, But I wasn't holding. We are personally responsible for communication in his government, because you have entities in the government that are responsible for these things. And in fact, all these ministries have communication director. You know, so we expect communication to be fluent. All right, and we didn't really see anything on the George Weah.
Thank you, Tom. I want you to come in quickly, and then we
just few seconds. I mean, one of the problems with George Weah delegation was that he was taking people who had no business being on the delegation. Everywhere George Weah is going, whether it's related to city related or not, Jefferson Koji is on the trip, and he had his own batch of people behind him. This is why his delegations were too long, because he was just taking too many persons. And one thing I will say here is that I said this, and I said it a couple of times. The benefit from George Weah we get as a country was not when he was president. It's when he's no longer president. So because George Weah did too many wrong things, anybody that comes over and you take over after George Weah, it's almost like, if George Weah did this, don't do it. So you now see a lot of scrutiny on presidential travels. How did you travel? Was it on a private jet or not on a private jet? How many persons did you carry? Did you carry security? Did you carry secretary? because George Weah had this number of 48, 50 persons that he was moving from one point to the other. So in terms of comparison, I would say that it cost the country more when George Weah traveled as compared to what we are paying now. On the issue of communication, we remember the former presidential press secretary with the house on the 9th Street. When he initially said the house was owned by George Weah's son, he had to come back to clarify. So this is what I'm saying. Instead of focusing on national issues, we had to be focusing on what George Weah was doing with where he was living, where he was renovating. And all through George Weah regime, I'm not sure he had any presidential press secretary that would actually face the media and speak to them. So that's not even something we should debate or talk about. I never saw Solo Kegbe say anything.
Smith Toby was on everywhere for 13 different episodes, but that was he too. He was pulled back later on. They say, let us stay. Let's talk about the last thing, and then we can bring in our callers. That will be, within the first 5 months, you're expected to form your government, make your appointments and let things start running. I want us to look at this formation of the government, the appointments. Do we have, the cream of the cream in these appointments? People that will run the country. And also, I want us to talk about the separation of power. We have 3 branches of government. Do we have this interference going on, right? Where, the executive is trying to interfere, legislative and judicial branches, and money issue, bribery that people like to call lobby, and all that's going on. How do we compare the two? Let's start with the appointments, the formation of government. Let me go to Clarence this time.
Listen, Dennis. Look, it's simple. This is the most miserable appointment process we've ever had in our country since the formation of this country under Joseph Newman Boakai. President Boakai, I would like to put it in the words of his own nephew, John Molu. He dropped the ball. Now, we listen. I would not say that we have the best of the best right now in Liberia for the fact that President Boakai is struggling to accommodate the UP alliance. So if you look at Santel report that it just posted on the 100 days of Boakai administration, you will find that I think they said over 70% or 90% they said of the appointees are from Lofa, Bong, and Nima. All right, less than 20% are female. Less than 20% are female. So I would think that he's struggling because of the UP alliance and trying to accommodate those who help him win the election, which is understandable. It's politics. All right, and then when you look at some of the individuals that have been appointed so far, I strongly frown on the appointment of Prince C. Johnson, retired Prince C. Johnson at NSA, especially when you look at the level of allegation that came from the AFL against him and put him at NSA when NSA should have been the one looking into the situation that happened with the Army wives issue. All right, and now then I'm not sure if you heard it. They're having issues within the Army right now as we speak. Not only with the suicide death of one of the officers, but right now, I think it was today they just dismissed another AFL guy who out there who just left from jail a few days. All right, and then we find people who got on radio during the campaign and threatened to kill somebody with mob violence, get appointed to Internal Affairs Ministry. All right, those are serious concerns. All right, and I don't think Liberian people are happy about it, but that's the situation we have right now. When it comes to the Weah administration, I know that Weah administration at the National Port Authority, there were family members of his that were appointed, not appointed, but employed there that raised serious concerns. So I think both parties did have some issues, but Boakai struggled more than Weah struggled forming his government, and that's a clear fact. All right, and there's no way to beat around that. So I would think that people can say what are some of the things going for. I would think maybe one of the things we can do is that Boakai need to read John Modu would say Boakai need to course correct and see if he can come back. Modu was clear. He said, in fact, if you were president, and with or advising Joe Boakai, Grisby would not have been even appointed. The guy who runs the president office, Grisby is the one who runs the president office. John Moderator said he would not even appoint that guy. So I mean, they're having internal struggles. Everybody knows that. And I don't think
about Lofa, Niga, and Bong. Weah was being accused also of southeastern dominance.
Yeah, but listen, show me the facts. There are facts right now for you to go and read. Over 90% of current Joseph Boakai
Wow.
from Lofa, Central Bureau, Bong, and Lima County. The facts are there. It's published. Less than 20% of the senior cabinet members are female. Less than 20%.
How does that compare to Weah?
Well, I have not seen the facts, but anyone here can want to produce that. I don't mind.
Right. So since you don't know, maybe Weah could be worse. Is that?
No. I stand to be corrected. I have not seen that. I have not seen that.
Okay, talk briefly about the second part of it, which is the separation of power. Have there been influence from the executive to the other branches of government? Is it you scratch my back, I scratch your back? Where do we see that? Boakai or Weah?
So under the George Weah administration.
No, not your turn now.
Yeah,
no, let him go ahead. Go ahead. You end it.
I sure I heard Dennis say something. I sure I heard Dennis actually say something. I know under George Manuel Weah that he did not struggle so much with the legislature because they had some leverage there, so to speak, as compared to Joseph Boakai, who tried to dominate the legislature with BRAP. All right, I didn't see George Manuel Weah trying to grab legislature to overturn speaker position or try to stop somebody from becoming speaker of the House of Representatives. I didn't see that. If anybody saw that, you can come up and say that I'm saying, but I didn't see that. Joseph Boakai is currently being accused by one of his right-hand men, Yeka Koruba.
Let me get in before I forget all my thoughts.
Deliberately trying to grab him so that they can remove the speaker. So those are facts.
Thank you. Thomas, we talk about appointments and then the separation of powers.
Appointments. It's a fact that the formation of the Weah government was much more seamless as compared to GMB. But this is with a context. Weah won election with a coalition of two other political parties, the NPP and the LPDP. And he started to marginalize those two parties from the very first day of his administration. So for me, his cabinet was much more easy. He was just to appoint the CDC people. He had a bandwidth. Once you were a sedition, you were going to be appointed. It didn't matter what qualification you had, what experience you had. So he would do that easily. The coalition that is in power now is much more bigger. So for me, the government took time. And I would think that the reason why this whole issue of the formation happened the way it happened was that time that was between winning the election in January 22. I think that was the time the current government needed to form its cabinet, so that as of January 22, they could just start to announce them. But for the fact that they started with forming the cabinet after inauguration, it created a lot of pressure. The other thing is that we have to say this for a fact. Those appointments that were going up and withdrawing them and nominating two persons in one position, that's something that was too pervasive under this regime. The other thing on the Central report is that the 90% is not accurate. The report says the North West has around 70%, right? Females in the cabinet in terms of the appointment is 38%, right?
Assistant ministers.
Right. So let me just clarify that. So in terms of the caliber of people, that have been appointed, I would say that this cabinet right now is much more educated and much more experienced as compared to the cabinet that George Weah had. In terms of the separation of power, I think this has been in the press. That the Senate played a role in the formation of the cabinet. They recommended people. Some senators came out and said, yes, that from the party that I come from, I submitted names. So there has been a blurred line in terms of actually recommending and forming people. in terms of people entering the government. On the other side of one party trying to interfere with the work of the other, I mean, on the formation of the government, like I said, the allegation of the speaker removal has been out there in the press. There are different versions of it that are coming up. So, I mean, this is a story that we will continue to follow. But in terms of the quality of people that we have, it started slow, it's going to move on, but I would say they are far more better than the cabinet that we have under George Weah.
Aliyu.
Yeah, yes. I can't go too much into that whole thing now because similar point. But what I would say though is I think yeah, there was some little slacking in it. I'll leave it at that. But I'll tell you one of the major problems is I think the president appointing power in Liberia called our constitution is just too big. It's too big, humongous. We have to find ways to empower this local government thing and actually get it up and running so that the people themselves can elect their own officials, superintendent, development superintendent, district superintendent, mayor, district development, whatever, city mayor, district attorney. Those people should be elected by their district. I think that will help to speed up some of these processes. But the truth be told is that yeah, there was a little slacking. Then let's clarify certain misinformation that have been passed out here. That you get called back, carry around. You get called back. So you should have gone to school, but he refused. The $5,000 that Yaga Kolba was talking about that Joe Boakai gave him is a $5,000 that the legislatures give themselves, Dennis. The legislatures give themselves that $5,000. When Yaga Kolba saw a $5,000 check, he went straight for Joseph Boakai man. Okay, this accusation that Joseph Boakai is trying to remove Funatic Kofa. Joseph Boakai dismissed that by bringing Funatic Kofa out, taking photograph with him, even going to Funatic Kofa house when the house got it with fire and all of that. But yet, Liberia, one thing people speculate a lot and they tend to make it true either way. But none of those things are true, Dennis. If we talk about interference, the only group that actually is interfering, in fact, they're backed by law to do that, is the legislature. The legislature can apportion money for themselves, determine what benefit to acquire, how much money they can make on a simple retreat. However, there was someone, the executive ministers, when they think something smells like corruption. However, they legalize their own corruption. So there's just a double standard here, and I think the people need to really rise in that country. Tell you the truth.
Mr. Nawe.
Yeah, Dennis, I would agree with Mr. Khan and Dr. Pearson that I think the current president's appointments are a little messier than the previous president, but ostensibly because the president, I think, is catering to a more contentious collaborative coalition than President Weah had. I was a little surprised that the appointments have not been dominated by counties that will include Basel. I was really surprised by that because I really thought the rescue team, exerted so much sway over this president. But I was pleasantly surprised by that. The report from Centel that about 57 or so percent of the appointments seem to come from Bonima and Lofa. You know, of course, the report said about a decimal, mini point something, or those appointments are from the southeast and other regions. So president needs to work on that. I am convinced that right now, because this current crop of officers in this government are basically an attempt to pacify this president base. So I wouldn't expect this current appointees to constitute the cream of the crop or the best of the best, only because I know this president has to cater to his base. But I believe that sooner or later he's going to clean house. I kind of almost feel that is just down the road. So I think you'll be given the opportunity to bring in the best of the brightest, a couple of months down the road. Interference, yes, I think I think we can talk about interference under this government one because I think they allow some of the cases to actually go to court. I don't know how many of these high-profile cases ever went to court under the previous president. I have to be reminded, but then we remember the interference by this current president of the Prophet Key and the peace ambassador in these court case. I thought that was flagrant interference from this
Legal advisor, not the
this government.
president.
He represents the president. He represents the government. He didn't act in his capacity as an individual, but he acted in his capacity as legal advisor to the president. So I thought that was a little bit kind of surprising that he did that. But I understand the recent move to grant compassionate leave to the justice minister. I initially thought that was also kind of interference, but those who are versed in the law, they tell me that the president was within his legal bounds to grant the compassionate release. So that's how much I have on the interference, separation of power. Yes, again, we talked about the reported attempts by this president, just like his president that he was vice president for, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, try to remove Edwin Snow and interference. I understand this president is fighting real hard to remove the current speaker for whatever reason. I don't know why. I think we didn't do that because the principles were all seditions. Buffer Chambers, I believe, is a sedition. So was Abochie, the sedition. So he didn't have a reason to want to remove them. So that's understandable. The previous president, I mean, his government was probably 90% or more Southeastern. I mean, I'm from the Southeast, but the past president, he had more appointments coming from one region of the country than I think this current president is. So again, I probably have to give him the edge on this.
Dennis, can I make a quick point on the issue of the legislature?
Yeah, I wanted to also say that the one that came with the Cabinet Jana, it came after 5 months. So just in case.
Okay. Okay.
I was listening to one of the representatives, I think sometime.
And Tom, let me announce also that if you want to join the conversation, please call the number that's on your screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. We already have a caller waiting. Go ahead, Thomas.
So just quickly, Ali mentioned the issue of this decentralization and the legislature really stepping into the space of the executive. I was listening to one of the lawmakers, I think this week or last week, and he was talking about the need to increase their number of staff. They need to have a women coordinator in their district. They need to have this. And my question is, why do you have local governments? It's almost like every lawmaker wants to have a government in his district. Youth representative, that representative. Their role is to make law at the national level, allocate money to go to the sub-national level, and then the local governments can implement. If they don't implement, you hold them accountable. And we already have a local government act. I think we need to move forward to really set up these structures and allow local governments to work, rather than having the executive doing executive work, lawmakers having their own administration at the sub-national level, implementing projects, putting money in the budget. It really doesn't work that way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dennis, 30 seconds.
I want to bring in my caller.
Yeah, just 30 seconds. When people say they expected that Bassa and other places should have more members of the government, at the same time say that the legislatures had power to nominate or to recommend their own people. For instance, the Senate pro tem, Bassa, Darius DeLong, Bassa, they all had the power to send people, and they did send a lot of people. So I think Grand Bassa can be represented through them.
Thank you. I don't. If I understood I don't really understand what you said.
No,
why he say it has some truth in it? At the ministerial level, you will not see a lot of Bassa. But if you go to those autonomous agencies, the NOCA, the LPRC, you have a lot of these. Almost everybody that was at the top level in Liberty Party, Yombi Kanga fashion got appointed. Even the person who was taking pictures from Geelong got appointed as a deputy.
You understand? It's difficult to understand why.
Right, so
But I thought Centel report cover both the ministry and commissions, though.
Yeah, no, we're saying Yombi has a lot of people that they recommended.
Yeah, it did cover all areas.
All right. Let me bring in our callers now. Yesterday I went so much over time, so I'm trying to control that today. Elvis Morris is our first caller. Go ahead, Elvis. We are comparing the first 5 months of Boakai with the first 5 months of Josh Weah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jai, and hello to the panelists. Look, I think inherently it's going to be an unfair comparison because most people in their minds and in their hearts they're going to look at President Weah's entire term when they're comparing it to the first 5 months because they know what happened subsequently after those 5 months. So it's for them it's an entire picture. But for me, I think when you're looking at a rookie and a 40-year-old veteran, you expect the veteran to do things different, to do things more professionally. You had a lot of political debutantes in President Weah's, administration, whereas you have people here in President Boakai's administration who are, veterans. They're serving in previous administrations, and they're supposed to do things differently. Like Thomas was making the point, which I think is a fair point, that if you get in there, you're going to be the antithesis of what President Weah was in terms of making good decisions, in terms of communicating with the public, in terms of not riding public jets, in terms of being more transparent. But in fact, this government is not doing that. So when we're comparing apples and apples, the reality is the more experienced apple is acting like the inexperienced apple. So in this regard, I will say President Weah performed how we thought he was going to perform, especially in the first 5 months for somebody who was very much inexperienced in terms of leading the country as compared to somebody who was second in charge of the country and had very much, a lot of experience working in government for many decades. So I think overall, it's not even supposed to be as close because most of the things that are happening in President Weah's administration is happening under President Boakai's administration. But I think if you take a deeper perspective, it's just a reflection of the Liberian people because most of these people that work in government, they have the same intent, they have the same tendencies. So you're seeing it, being replayed in these successive administrations. But lastly, I would say this, and I keep giving this caveat, this warning to President Boakai, it's not a threat. But this idea that not even an idea, but this perception that he's a lawless president, that he always looks for ways to circumvent the judicial system. He's trying to put his thumb on the scale of justice, to unbalance, to put it in make it in balance in, somebody's favor. I've said it, I predicted it before he even came to power that he would try to free Gloria Mususka, as you guys were just talking about it. I think that's a big, big mistake if he goes down that route. The embarrassment that Sandra Johnson, whatever her name is, apologizing to a convicted murderer. You want to show that she's innocent, go through the appeal process. Don't apologize to her.
Thank you.
So if somebody from President Weah administration is put in jail today for corruption, and went through the process of President Boakai administration for him corrupt, should we expect that if President Weah comes back, he will free all the people that President Boakai jail for corruption and other crimes? Of course not. So he has to be impartial when it comes to the justice system. If not, people will start to retaliate against him because they will see him as a lawless president. That's not a president. But thank you for taking my call. Yeah. I'll leave it right there.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the lawyer of the former justice minister being in charge, I think that's something that you have looked at a little more closely. Flomo Livingstone, you're live. Oh. Flomo, what happened? I cannot unmute you.
Flomo crashed the whole system.
Yeah. Let me just yeah. All right. Let's. Okay. Go ahead, Flomo. You're live now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Mr. John, thank you for the show and thank the panelists. There's no comparison in the last 5 months between George Weah and President Boakai. What kind of comparison? There's no comparison. Here's an accomplishment President Boakai has done in the 5 years, which George Weah was not even able to do in 6 years. Look, it's forming the offer of the ombudsman. That's a good accomplishment. He did that within 5 months. He declared and published access within 5 months, which George Weah did not do that. You know, I mean, President Boakai appointed more females in his government than any president in the history of Liberia. Check it out. It is a fact. It's your ministry. You check. So, people keep saying, President Boakai appointed not a proof on the north or whatsoever. Let us provide evidence. I don't go around, I don't know what kind of information whatsoever. Go through the list and check. Then you can compare to see where most of the list, most of the ministry came from. And the president has been doing a lot. The president traveled less than the amount of time President George Weah traveled most of the time. And President Boakai hasn't traveled that much. He traveled with less than delegate. The yellow mission you guys talk about, some arrived today in the country. That's a good accomplishment. At least it's not like we're not eating cake or yellow cake. It's real. I mean, the president has traveled to several African countries. We criticize the president of traveling to Guinea-Bissau. Then you guys say that you should travel to visit other African countries. When you travel in Guinea-Bissau, you have criticize him. So you should travel there on private plane. Second occasion, people travel on private plane. President Boakai was going in the African summit. Here's, I tell you, 2 African leaders have traveled on commercial plane. Most of the African leaders travel on private plane, like Kenya president, like Zimbabwe, and Ghana. Leaders travel on private plane, but you guys complain about that. You didn't praise the president of traveling public, it's a commercial plane when he traveled. But because last time he traveled to Guinea-Bissau on private because it was an emergency, you wanted him to walk and go there.
Thank you.
And there's no comparison to that. The president has done a lot of good things. And Mr. Pearson, when you want to speak on fact, provide evidence. Just evidence, he has the evidence and stuff like that. All you do is just allegation. There's no fact that you can provide to us that what you say is true. Thank you for the show.
Thank you. Let me take the last caller here now. That's Eric Jensen. Eric, you're live.
Thanks, Dennis, for offering the chance. I think I've been following your show, but I noticed that today's debate is actually very, very, open one and a lot of subtopics, 16 I get counted. I'll get pick up few. I think I will look at the separation of power, and which approach is very, very paramount. And I think that currently the executive and the judiciary, they are working, but the main fight is between the executive and the legislature. And they are all fighting on the case. You can see them when they send the budget to the legislature ensure that they put in what they want. And there where I think they cannot get carry on the monitoring, the supervision to be able to checkmate the executive. Then they are also part of the whole corruption saga, because there where it's most of the challenge comes from. And I think you can see recently what happened with the senators. Having budget lines, especially when you say you took an operation lines in your budget, but only to see that you allocated it on your consecutive basis, and which, the George Weah time, I know there was some sort of adjustment made with those budget lines. The legislature supported projects were removed from scrapped up because there was no funding. Now, UP government have put it back. I sent a big corrected back. They know that people put items to the budget, they run after it. And when you come to the after declaration, I think it's a little bit late. I see Aliu try to maybe justify, give some accommodation to the president. He did well, but what happened to his vice president? What happened to some of the ministers that have already been that are already in office? Why is it that they are not declared as assets to be published and be certified by the LACC? And lastly, to get concluded, I won't take much of the time. One of my maybe like comment or maybe recommendation. Please, with the CSA completing almost their head count, according to the last press conference they just gave this week, will it be good that you can invite me on this program to see, you can give some overview on some of the recommendations alongside with the Good Governance Commission, who's supposed to make sure they help them implement or help to enforce some of the recommendations that come from CSA, because a lot of corruption things they on ice, and they are passed some of them on to the Justice Ministry. Where is the Good Governance Commission? Role is going to be playing to make sure the executive implement some of these things, because there are a lot of things that are on ice. And I think when it comes to transparency, we think some of these are actions into coming to play. Not just the LACC, not just maybe GAC, but Good Governance Commission and CSA. We think they should all partner together because they were in that press conference. But what role are they going to be playing to enforce some of the issues, especially they are on ice with this head count, their computer will be different. I think maybe 26 ministries and other agencies and the SOE and so. So I'd just like to say maybe if you can give it some attention, probably the show either is not a debate. But you know, your other problem that come on some of these people so much on board that they probably know how they are going to move as well. Thank you there for putting the time.
Thank you. Definitely we'll bring the CSA boss to talk about this. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We have 4 minutes to close. So let's go around the room for your closing. Let's start with Thomas.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Evans made a point on George Weah will be at a disadvantage because people will eventually think about his time in office in its entirety. This is why I kept stressing that we have to keep it within the context of the time frame that was defined. The other advantage George Weah will get is that people will likely forget what he even did at that point in time. And you will overstress what is happening now as compared to what happened under George Weah. So if you are not very careful, if you don't go back to what he did, you might just give him a pass because sometimes we have, when things take long, the memory fades away. Mm-hmm. On the issue of the point that the last caller made, on the show last night when we came to the point of the solutions, I highlighted the issue of the Governance Commission. And I think this is where this government really needs to pay attention to. Since the late Dr. Sawyer left the GC has not been what it actually used to be. All of the transparency and accountability institutions that we have in Liberia, the model for them is the GC. It was the GC where that established the LACC, the IAA, and all of them. If we are going to improve governance, to reform governance, to build this state that we want to build, the Governance Commission needs to play a major role. And nobody is really talking a lot about them. The president needs to make sure that the GC is up and running. They are the think tank for the public sector in Liberia, so they can do what they need to do to reform the government moving forward. Overall, I would say the reason why George Weah is not president today is because he did not govern well. If you look at over the past 5 months, you compare this government and his government, I would say this government has done better than what he did. And there should not even be an argument, because any government that performs as poorly as George Weah, you are going to go after one term. So everybody will try as much as possible not to go down to the level where George Weah left the presidency. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson.
Thank you, Dennis. I want to just close by saying I strongly believe that our whole political field in Liberia the past couple of years has been overly politicized, and I think the blanket condemnation of the extent to which people emphasize the Boakai administration as a failure is overstated. And that would have been clarified if the different audits that they mentioned that they would have done on coming to power, if that had been done, then that would have been a yardstick to measure that. And overall, comparing the first 100 days between the two administrations, I think Joe Boakai failed miserably, considering the fact that he comes with an advantage of 12 years as a vice president and over 40 years of public service experience. And I want to just draw his attention to the fact that his delay in declaring assets injure his integrity and international confidence in him to fight corruption. His inability to address current officials who have been caught in allegations of corruption right under his nose and not doing anything about it is a problem. All right. And I also want to mention the current situation in the AFL, in the security sector. Both the EPS, the AFL, and the National Police and LDA, those are serious issues that mark the initial failure of his setup of his government. That should be taken serious. The current fuel in his communication system amongst the secretary, the press secretary to his office, and then to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, not Foreign Affairs, but Information. The little riot that is brewing between the two, that's a matter of concern. They should look into that. And I think there are so many things that he has a false start on that he needs to fix. He failed miserably the first 5 months, and I think if he doesn't do anything to self-correct or course correct, this will crystallize, as John Molu said, and he's going to have struggle leading going forward. And that's my take on it.
And compared to Weah,
we did far better in his first 100 days than Joe Boakai, considering the difference in the circumstances.
150 days. They use the 5 months.
He still did better. Trust me. The train has not even picked up yet. The train still warming up.
Thank you. Aliyu.
Yeah, Dennis, I wouldn't want to repeat after Thomas because a lot of things he said. So this is the route I would go. Now, we cannot disagree with the fact that there has been some shortcomings. There have been some, mistakes, some of them very rookie. But a lot of the criticism that I carry out against the administration, a lot of the time they're just far-fetched. They couldn't be any further from the reality. No evidence, no facts. When somebody says Joe Boakai is bribing the legislature or the House of Representatives to remove the speaker, and I expect you to push a little bit on that, I say, give us something to see. Nothing you give us to see except for the speculations that goes on around. And that is when I'm speaking, I don't have the patience like most of the other people to go around, just get some key points. Darrell Delore is Bassa, Yomblo is Bassa. They both originate from Grand Bassa County. They were one of the biggest part of the collaboration. They even had the power to determine which Joseph Boakai can withdraw, or who Joseph Boakai should renominate. It happened at the Ministry of Justice. If they had such a power and they sent a lot of people, Grand Bassa County is represented. Just get the clue from there. Great show, but then let's be pushing our brothers to actually tell us where they get the evidence from, and let's just not make blanket statements. Thanks so much.
And that's why you hear, when they give blanket statements, you can push.
Read Santel report. That's where the information about the
Mr. Number, you're closing, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Look, I have to agree with Mr. Morris Elvis. I think President Weah more or less did what was expected of him. But I think this president has disappointed a lot of us so far. Hopefully, he's going to, to wake up and get this job done. Relative to what a lot of us expected him to be at this time in his administration, I think he has underperformed. I mean, we can cite several examples from the appointments to everything else, the asset recovery, so a lot of us really are pretty much confused. And I like to channel, Councilor Nimbaliwano. You should see these criticisms or these assertions as a call to action. I don't think you should see them as negative criticism. I mean, John Molu, Martin Colley, all these people, I think they always end with saying, we want this government to take action and do well. So I think they should really listen to this and do the needful, as Councilor Wano said, and do the right thing. Some of these things are very simple and they're easy to. I mean, from my perspective, some of them can be handled very easily. But it's just that everything seems to be postponed, or investigated, and then that's it. We never hear again what is happening. The LDA, we don't know where that stands. The Armed Forces Day thing, we don't know where that stands. The B Modern thing, we don't know where that stands. So many investigations. We don't know what the right situation is. So there is a whole lot that we're hoping they will quickly get done. But I like to, close out by, saying some of the things we didn't talk about as we were coming in. The president's answer were finally being published. I think it's a good thing that he did, but why did it have to take so long? So I think that is commendable, but I think he could have done it a lot earlier. I've kind of perused it briefly. It's not much complicated stuff in there that had to take so long to be released. Also, the legislature, the House is in a retreat now of its own in Margibi at the Formula Hotel. Hopefully this time.
They managed not to call it retreat.
Oh, they decided not to call it a retreat.
It's
Okay.
a forum. Some kind of forum.
So yeah, so hopefully, quite frankly, Fonati seems to be striking a better management style than the president pro tem is. So hopefully, I think we might get something out of this. We'll be watching. So far, the initial expenditure released seemed to be far, far, far reasonable compared to what was spent in Buchanan, and he seems to be admitting and releasing some of this thing, whereas the president pro tem seems to be holding this thing to her chest. But great show, all. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thanks to the audience as well. Some of them have been pretty active tonight. That is good. I think they're calling some of us out, so we'll try to, take heed to some of this advice and probably do better. But that's why we're here. To give our best, and I think we're doing the best we can under the circumstances. Thank you very much.
And to add to that, shout out to Dr. Sam Wallow. He is he's a loyal follower, and always he doesn't hide his thoughts. He always share. So thank you, Sam, for tomorrow, 7 p.m. I'll be hosting former Commissioner Marcel Washington, Councillor Frederick Weah, and former TRC Commissioner John H.T. Stewart. They are not happy about they are not happy about the appointment of Councillor Jonathan Massaquoi as the head of the Office of the War Crimes Court. So they are coming to share their thoughts on that, and I want to ask them why. So you don't want to miss it. That's tomorrow at 7.
I hope they will talk about the new appointment too on the Supreme Court bench. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll ask Councillor J.
Yeah, because she was also in a scandal sometime back. I'm not about Jewish like a tempering. We'll look it up. But I don't know how that will play. I'm not sure the details.
But gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you. And we want to thank our viewers for watching. Even those who will watch later, always focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Until then, we close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night and God bless.
Good night, guys.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.